God is omnipresent. So, he must be in you. If not, he is nowhere at all. That is absurd. That is to say that existence doesn't exist. Since you exist, God exists. Because God cannot create a thing from any substance besides the God's substance. To state otherwise is to say that there's a substance that exists outside of God, from which he fashions creation. That is also absurd and cannot be. As stated in the book The Kabbalion, that the all is all. And is in all. Therefore, God is in you. The entire search of man to seek God outside of himself is the root cause of all suffering. As man when looking outside, finds empty promises and illusions, which causes frustration. Then man creates a fantasy to cope with the bane of existence. That fantasy is man-made. Therefore, it involves suffering for men. And down we go into the deep end. Well, God is nowhere but here. Are you here? Or are you deep in the matrix via your smartphone and your AirPods? Mindlessly searching and seeking for the missing piece without even realizing. As this separation from the source is like a splinter in your mind as described in the movie The Matrix. You try to scratch this splinter out with all sorts of shallow things like religion, materialism, hedonism, consumerism, or just straight up nihilism. Yet nothing seems to be effective. As all that is out there. Yet God is in here. You exist, that is the awareness of God in you. As Nikola Tesla said. Where do we fall into place in this endless existence? We are the presence of God at the point we are. Christ said, "You abide in me, and I in you." How can I, a so-called physical man, abide in another physical man? It can only be when you understand that Christ never spoke to the physical man, but your real self. Which is the essence of God within. As the book The Kabbalion, which is based on ancient Hermetic philosophy, states that the all is mind, the universe is mental. You can easily grasp every parable and seemingly elusive analogy of Christ once you understand that you are spirit. That is your real self, having a temporary human experience. God is spirit or living mind. There is no separation in the living mind of God because the all cannot be divided. Only infinite experiences that may sometimes appear to be projecting the illusion of separation. Therefore, you are spirit, the all is spirit, and there is no separation. This is how you abide in me. Because you are me, and I am you. As we are one with the divine mind. This is why the words of Christ stating that I and my Father are one, but my Father is greater than I, make sense. One cannot come up with any other explanation for these words besides unity consciousness, you can only make assumptions and cope. Therefore, you are physically and spiritually one with the source of all that is. So, God is standing where you are standing. God is present in your breath and your soul. This should immensely comfort you. As there is no need to get enlightened, you are already all that is. There is no holier place than the temple of God, which is you. And since you are one with the all, you cannot cease to exist. The fear of death no longer exists when you deeply understand this idea. That your awareness of being comes from the only being that is ever aware. Because there is no other being besides the living eternal mind. This also buries the religious idea that Satan is the cause of all evil. God contains all that is, therefore, evil comes with infinite possibilities and experiences. With the gift of freedom of choice bestowed upon man, harm is there for one to be experienced. But if death and loss is only an illusion, the pain that you suffer here is like a bad dream that you will awake from one day. Just like a nightmare. And you will realize that nothing was lost, everything is truly alright. As you abide in the Father who is eternal. Dreaming the dream of life. But hear this. You are bestowed upon the gift of freedom of choice. What you choose, the all will bring into your experience. As the all created you for a unique experience that only you can give. Therefore, now that you know who you really are, you can become aware of your own mind. As man thinketh in his heart, so he is. Your mind is the source of your experience only till you are unconscious of it. Once you become aware of it, you realize that you have a mind. You are not your mind. That is when you realize that you are formless spirit, observing the mind and having a five-sensory experience. This is the moment when you become a deliberate creator. And realize the real source is your real self, not the mind, in your experience. You can accept or reject the notions that your mind presents to you. You can choose who you would like to be, rather than what mind suggests, which is mostly limited egoic thinking. Mind can only think from what is, while spirit can imagine that, which is not yet visible in the three-dimensional experience. So, you can begin creating just like the Father. Since God is the living eternal mind, the substance out of which the living mind creates is mind substance, or imagination. God is imagining you, and you by extension are imagining this dream you call your life. So let me ask you this, what are you imagining? Well, if you are plugged into the matrix of Twitter and have your AirPods in, I can make a very accurate guess as to what you are imagining. If you are a slave to all that you observe, you are reacting to life. That is not a place from where you can create the life of your own choosing. That is not the sure foundation of rock upon you can build your church. You can only react to all that is already present in your experience. Therefore, being swept away by the waves of the collective reality. And this world is limiting, as the human experience is by definition limiting. Man is mortal, weak and limited. And if all that you think of yourself is as man, well then man is what you will experience. But this video shows you are more than that. And you are one with Source. This should remove all the external gods and limitations of this world from your mind. And give the power back to you. I am pointing towards the only thing that is real, your awareness of being. All else is a reflection of the one divine mind who has fragmented itself into infinite experiences. But you, in your experience, represent all that is. Therefore, you are the presence of God at the point you are. You are given the authority to mold your experience from where you stand as the center of all that is. Every man is a world within himself. Because every man is one with Source. So, each man can dream a dream of life that he chooses, that is the gift of freedom of choice. But abiding as the awareness of who you really are is the key. Otherwise, the human experience will beat you down till you wake up. Because every man will eventually wake up from the dream of life by the grace of the All. But while you are in this dream, you must not be a slave to what is, if you desire to create what you want. You must employ divine imagination and your divine word to imagine only the lovely and speak only that is of good rapport. And watch how the All brings that which you speak and imagine into your experience. This experience alone will be enough for the one who is aware to finally have found. The one who cannot be named or defined.